But the brave are the ones that get lucky the most, you know?
My best advice is taking the pressure off yourself however you can.
He said, he was like, well, just paint and it'll come. And I was like, oh, that is so not helpful.
Whatever it is, the art that you think is beautiful, that the reason why you became an artist, try to create that art.
Welcome to the BoldBrush Show, where we believe that fortune favors a bold brush. My name is Laura Orengo-Bayer, and I'm your host. For those of you who are new to the podcast, we are a podcast that covers art marketing techniques and all sorts of business tips specifically to help artists learn to better sell their work. We interview artists at all stages of their careers, as well as others who are in careers tied to the art world in order to hear their advice and insights. In this episode, we feature a compilation of advice from artists who have successfully made the leap into becoming full-time creatives. They share their journeys, offering practical tips on transitioning from part-time to full-time artistry and how to build a sustainable career. You'll hear about the importance of figuring out what you love to paint, developing thick skin, and finding the right balance between passion and practicality. The artists also discuss the importance of being seen, persistence, and creating multiple income streams to ease the pressure off of creation. From overcoming self-doubt to setting realistic goals, this episode covers key advice for anyone considering the transition.
I think what I would say is one of the things that really helped me get my career going, like literally within 6 months of trying. It was close to 10 years ago now that I started my career. I quit my business office job and moved to California to learn oil painting. And I got kind of going right away. And when I asked myself, why is that? Why was it fast? Um, it's a combination of luck, which you need. Um, but the brave are the ones that get lucky the most, you know? So
Definitely.
I found that I went after and took on different projects that at that time I was a little bit too green for. I didn't quite know if I could execute this challenge. I did my first oil painting commission during my first semester at Watts. A semester is 3 months there. So in my first 3 months of touching oil paint, I took on an oil painting commission. Um, it was from Reddit. I painted somebody's dog. Yeah, it's humble beginnings from Reddit's dogs to kings and things like that. But you have to start where you have to start. But what is really important is to say yes to uncomfortable things that are a bit too soon. Because I've seen other students at the time take the seemingly more logical strategy of not putting the cart in front of the horse. So they would take things kind of slowly and logically in steps. Like they would take all drawing classes before doing painting classes. I, for example, skipped drawing classes and took painting classes right away. Um, and they would like build up to things, and that's fine. That will work. But the brave thing to do is you don't build up to it. You just do it right away. You say yes to everything. And it's extremely stressful. And you get like literally physically ill. I remember one time magazine, through sheer miracle and luck, contacted me to do the Time Person of the Year cover in 2014. It was my first 6 months of trying to be an artist.
Wow.
And I said yes, and I had like 40 hours of class each week, and I had only 2 weeks to get it done. Um, and I remember when I realized that the email wasn't actually a scam, because I was convinced that it was some sort of like phishing scam.
Yeah.
When I realized it wasn't a scam, I just like turned green. Everyone was like, "Do you have a fever or something?" Because I realized I'm like, I wanted it to be a scam, so that I don't have to have the pressure and the pain of. Um, at the time, I felt a lot of stress because I feel a great responsibility upon myself when somebody does a commission with me. It is extremely intrinsically required for me to make sure they're happy, and not because I care about them or I'm a good guy. Absolutely not, and I'm not a good guy. I deeply want to be proud of myself as a person.
Mm.
And for that to happen, I needed to be true that working with me or doing something with me is something that every person will be happy and excited that they did and would never regret. And this is something I need that so that when I go to bed, I can say that I respect myself,
Yeah.
not the client, not the client is the client, but if for me, so that pressure when I would say to certain things early on, that personality uh, would put a lot of stress on me that actually I found made me learn faster, perform faster, and do leaps of artistic evolution very quickly because you gave your commitment and you'd rather die than break your commitment or not be able to do something that you told somebody that you're able to do. So your brain just unlocks whatever resources are there that are required to make this happen. And I grew artistically very quickly through a lot of stress and through a lot of like hair falling out and stuff like that. Um, I remember going to paint an MIT professor from life at her like mansion early on, and it was so challenging. The light was going everywhere. The pose was all changing. It was so stressful. Like I literally my hair started falling out faster. But through doing things like that, I literally feel nothing now. I feel absolutely nothing about anything. I have no stress. I don't know what kind of task they would have to give me for me to experience some sort of like fear or trepidation at this point.
Hmm.
And I think that was built through those early years of jumping into things without the safety on, you know? And the more stress and pain you feel, the better, I think. At least, look, I can tell you that's how it was for me. I recognize we all have different brains and different psychologies and different things that push us. Maybe some people grow better from positive reinforcement, whereas I grow from negative reinforcement exclusively. Um, so take my advice with a grain of salt and I guess ask yourself if psychologically what is right for you. But I can tell you that for me, discomfort was the speed booster and the strength builder that I think made my life so much better and made this whole thing go by quicker. And it allowed me to get to painting these paintings that I want to paint faster than otherwise.
It's really difficult because you have to just follow what you're interested in. And it is being an artist, being a writer, all those sorts of things are very much something that's not guaranteed. So if I go to work for somebody, if I go to work for DreamWorks or other places, then it's more guaranteed. And people have different personalities. There are just incredible artists that work at the studios in different places. And some of them, that's just their passion. They love being given a project and to work on it, and then they do it and it's collaborative. So you have to kind of judge your own self. I just am not that kind of person. I really do like working on weird things, half of which don't sell, but enough sell. And so you have to look at your own self. Do I have the personality for this? Are you really driven to want to do your own things? Or is it better to work for a place and then just not have that? Some people, the stress of having to come up with money. I mean, especially we don't have kids. You have kids, you have all the sorts of expenses. It can be very stressful. So maybe it's not right for you to have the stress of trying to make a living. We have people who come to us and say, well, I need to make this amount of money a year. How can I do that with being a painter? And sometimes you're just like, well, you're putting yourself under so much stress, that you're not going to be able to do your own work. Maybe it's better to do something else for your money and then do this for yourself, because that can be pretty stressful. So I think my best advice is taking the pressure off yourself however you can, whether it's another job and then do this part-time. I mean, that's what I did with writing, or moving places if you can. Like, we moved places to take the stress off us. I know that if I lived in a place that was very expensive, and we had lots of kids and things like that, I probably would have to have done more things to just make money. So there's nothing wrong with that. That's a great thing, and even if I were to go work for films, like you said, I love Spirit. I love those things. I would be happy working in places like that too. So it's really hard to give specific advice. I think trying to make it so you don't have too much stress with that, put so much pressure on you, that's always going to be the death of creativity. So
Well, as I said probably earlier, just to figure out what you really like, no matter how silly it is. I don't know, maybe anything. Some people, they like to paint landscape. Other people, they like to paint figures. I'm sure there are people who can paint little dolls or small toy cars or anything, or even the most mundane, let's say, subject can be turned into art. We can see it in the museums, all these still lives and things, but they look absolutely fantastic. And we can see how light is reflecting from the object. So yeah, my recommendation is just to figure out what you really love, and don't shape yourself. Don't try to find something which is going to sell or to work or get likes on Instagram, because you never know. And you will do something good, but something probably other people do the same subject will get like millions of likes, and you will get tens, and it will just hit you hard. So I recommend just to paint what you love. It will be very visible, because painting is, can we say, alchemy, right? I know it's silly comparison and a lot of controversy, but painting is an alchemy for some reason. Even from materialistic point of view, we can say that as alchemists of all times, we just mixing some metals, some pigments, some minerals, and we turn them into gold or just something valuable. But on metaphysical level, it is when you paint something which you really like, when it comes from inside, it shows very fast, because painting is also about self-confidence. If you do a lot of unnecessary brush strokes or do things which are not really you, it will be visible in the painting. And vice versa, when you feel this alchemy inside of you, when this magic happens, when you are doing something which you really like, each brush stroke will be in place. Every mixture will be one step forward, not two step backwards. And it will be visible even on a small smartphone screen when people are just flipping through the Instagram or TikTok in order to find some new entertainment or amusement. So it works even like that. Needless to say, it works when people see your painting in real life on the gallery wall or somewhere else.
I
So
completely
yeah,
agree.
just paint what you love.
Well, I think that the most useful thing is to be persistent with social media. I must admit, I have sold quite a bit through online sales, whether it's social media or there's a few different online venues. And I think you really need to be constantly putting your work out there, something every day, whether it's just something little or whatever. You have to be persistent. You can't just be once a week or something, maybe a few times a week. But as long as you are persistent in keeping it so that people are seeing it, because you can be the most fantastic painter ever, but if you never put your work out there for people to see, nobody's going to know about your beautiful work and where to buy it. So the main thing is you've got to get it in front of people's noses so that they can actually see, And I think I had this lovely man who commissioned me to do his portrait a while ago, and he gave me this little saying about persistence. And I'll just
Yeah, go
grab
for
it.
it.
It's just over here, and I'll read it to you. Okay, so refuse to accept failure. He sent me this. He's a lovely man. Nothing in the world can take the place of persistence. Talent will not. Nothing is more common than unsuccessful men with talent. Genius will not. Unrewarded genius is almost a proverb. Education will not. The world is full of educated derelicts. Persistence and determination alone are omnipotent. The slogan, press on, has solved and always will solve the problems of the human race. And so he was 84 when he commissioned me to paint him. And we've stayed friends ever since. It must have been about 10 years ago, I think, or more. And he sent me this little thing, which he framed, and I have it in my studio to make me realize, because sometimes when, you put your work in shows and you don't get accepted, and there's a whole lot of, what's that syndrome? Imposter syndrome, and the whole thing that you mentally go through. I read this about persistence, refuse to accept failure. So just press on and don't give up and be persistent. I think that's the best advice that I've had. And so, when it comes to your art, you have to do the work, but you have to also learn about these new platforms, about social media and putting it out in front of people and entering shows, entering competitions, anywhere that can get your work in front of people.
Absolutely.
I think that would be my best advice. So just keep at it and, just be persistent about it. Don't just do a whole lot and then forget about it. You have to kind of do a little bit. Have I done a little bit today? And, sometimes I listen to podcasts about art and, podcasts like yours and, try and learn how other people do things.
Yeah.
And just try and add to your knowledge about, oh, that sounds interesting. Maybe I'll try that. Or, try different things and, be flexible, I suppose.
At BoldBrush, we inspire artists to inspire the world because creating art creates magic, and the world is currently in desperate need of magic. BoldBrush provides artists with free art marketing, creativity, and business ideas and information. This show is an example. We also offer written resources, articles, and a free monthly art contest open to all visual artists. We believe that fortune favors the bold brush. And if you believe that too, sign up completely free at boldbrushshow.com. That's BoldBrush show.com. The BoldBrush Show is sponsored by Faso. Now more than ever, it's crucial to have a website when you're an artist, especially if you want to be a professional in your career. Thankfully, with our special link, faso.com/podcast, you can make that come true and also get over 50% off your first year on your artist website. Yes, that's basically the price of 12 lattes in 1 year, which I think is a really great deal, considering that you get sleek and beautiful website templates that are also mobile friendly, e-commerce, print on demand in certain countries, as well as access to our marketing center that has our brand new art marketing calendar. And the art marketing calendar is something that you won't get with our competitor. The art marketing calendar gives you day-by-day, step-by-step guides on what you should be doing today, right now, in order to get your artwork out there and seen by the right eyes so that you can make more sales this year. So, if you want to change your life and actually meet your sales goal this year, then start now by going to our special link, faso.com/podcast. That's FASO.com/podcast.
Don't try to find your own voice. And I'd say that because that is one of the pieces of advice that was passed on to me by Bill Parks. And he was 100% right, I think, that if you just study, become curious about the world, curious about everything, you will gravitate towards certain themes, certain ideas, certain ways of expressing things. Style or voice, I think, is nothing more than people's habitual mistakes. In other words, if somebody, Modigliani, making these or El Greco, making these elongated figures, maybe he had an issue with proportion, but it became a style, and because in art, you cannot paint what we see. What we see is light rays hitting the object, bouncing off the object, going into our retina, being projected upside down on nerve endings in our eyeballs in the back of them, and going into the brain and being interpreted as whatever. But in that process, every step of it, you're losing information. And so the information is filtered through our own verbal constructs and prejudices. I mean, human beings, including artists, talk to themselves incessantly we never shut up, And so the internal dialogue, we can either try to harness it and use it, or we can fall victim to it. And what I mean by that is, a lot of my students, will express their internal dialogue. They'll make it external, and it's kind of, oh, I started too late, I'll never be any good, I just don't get this temperature business, I don't understand this, maybe I should take up golf, I was better at golf, but not really that good, I was like a 19 handicap, and they're saying all of these things. A useful dialogue would be, okay, I don't like this, what don't I like? Is it too light, is it too dark? Is it too warm, is it too cool? Is it too sharp, is it too soft? Is it too green or is it too gray? If you ask yourself sort of these paired questions, then you can come up with useful answers. And to circle back to style, Bill Parks told me, do not try to find your own style. And then in my own research, I ran across a little, I don't remember if it was an excerpt from a letter or somebody recording advice he received from John Singer Sargent, about, I want to become a great portrait artist. And Sargent told him, no, don't try to become a great portrait artist. Try to become a great artist, and then you can do portraits. And that's what Sargent did, obvious by his body of work throughout time. And, so if you just try to be a great artist, you try to be the best that you can be at the things that interest you, eventually your style will find you. See, I don't think I have a style particularly, but then I've had people say, oh, I recognized your painting right off the bat. Really? But I'm just trying to be honest to the scene that's in front of me as filtered through my own internal movie. Generally, like the anecdote I told you about the persecuted woman, if my best paintings are paintings where it's not model sitting in chair, it's Romeo sitting at her mirror pining from her lost love, it's like a movie. And so then I start illustrating that movie. It's that internal dialogue. And that's what I circle back to, that people, you're going to talk to yourself anyway, might as well say something that's useful.
Well, I gave a bit of the story, just how I came to that point. And, that must seem very daunting to think that you might have to be dependent on God or whatever. But, I think there's something to exposing yourself to that kind of humility. Just really, I can't see the future. And yeah, I think you should just, at the moment it seems right, do it, and make sure you don't have too many detracting voices there that are stopping you. And so if there's this pragmatic side to you that, well, so you don't ever know that it's not your dad in your head telling you, you should never do that. You got to have 1 year of, salary saved up before you ever take a risk like that. Well, you got to get that voice out of your head. I'm sorry. It might be good advice, and it's good advice, but yeah, follow your heart. And if your heart's saying, I'm meant to be an artist, make sure you just get everybody you love on board. And if they don't come on board at some point, you've got to, it's always a lonely decision to decide to do something risky. But that's the way every good decision, every risky decision is. And anyone who's ever succeeded in doing that, it's because they set this, if they did it and preserved their relationships, it's because they set the stage, in a right way, and then took the leap. And so, a friend of mine named Rich Davis took me through that exercise at one point, and he got me to realize what I wanted to do. And he said, okay, well, then how are you going to do that thing you want to do? So some of us don't even know what we want to do. You're juggling too many ideas. So go through the exercise of put yourself on the spot and narrow down to one thing that you want to do. And for me, it was plein air painting was the thing that I needed to focus on. And once you have that in your head, it's very freeing. It's like, oh, okay, that's what I need to focus on. And you start to align your future in such a way that, that it's going to point towards that thing. And, give it the time it needs to bring people on board. But
So I'm going to give the same advice, modified a little bit to the advice I got, because when I first started to try to sell my work, I went to an artist friend that I knew, and I just said, okay, what do I have to do? And I came with a notebook, and I was ready to like, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, give me the steps.
Oh,
And
yes.
he said, he was like, well, just paint and it'll come. And I was like, oh, that is so not helpful. But what I have to say is I think there's more to it than that. So it's not just that, but I think that is the first key step is you've got to improve your craft. Keep painting, don't stop. That should definitely be on your list of something to do very consistently. Because the better you get at that step, the better you get at your craft, the easier it is to do step 2, which is to get your work out there. Get your work out there so that people can see it. And that it means start by entering local shows. There's tons of shows you can have locally. Then you can start branching out to, wider range. Then you can go nationally, and you can, that's kind of what I did, is kind of stepping stone up. But it really is about who you know, networking. And I went to various shows and various conventions and stuff and met people. And then my name was on their radar for when they wanted something else. And so definitely you have to get your work out there, and talk to people. But the better you are at step 1, that means keep painting, more doors will open in step 2. So I think that's the key kind of, progression. But also, I would add that you, and we touched on this before, but realizing and discovering who your market is, I think, is a key thing. And that's kind of the business side. But 1 and 2 are basically the main steps. And then as you're trying to improve your sales, it would be trying to really decide who your market is and focusing your energy on marketing to that group of people. and however that, whatever that means for you. Oh, and then you asked about supplemental income. Yes. So
Yes.
I think there's lots of options nowadays, which I think are pretty fantastic, because no longer are we in the time where you need a gallery, right? You need a gallery to represent your work, and that's still an option. And I'm in several galleries, and so it's good. But we are in a day and age where you as an artist can do a lot by yourself, right? And so teaching, of course, is one. I mean, that's classic that a lot of artists will end up teaching. I love to teach, so for me, that was a natural thing to supplement my income. There is also other businesses in the arts, I suppose, that you could do. I know artists that have done that. Also, just online figuring out. I never did prints, but I know a number of people that found out a really good way of making some, regular income by doing that. Because not everyone can buy original art, and that is true, and that's the fact of it, and that's okay. But some people still want good images. They still want good art, and so I think there's lots of avenues that are open if you want to look for that. Yeah.
Advice. Well, let's see. Have thick skin. You're going to be rejected a lot. You might have people not say very nice things about your work, and take constructive criticism for what it is. Work hard, paint at the easel, paint, paint, paint. That's the biggest thing. Just paint, 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 and then paint some more. Again, it goes back to, I always say that, people think that, if you're a professional athlete, and the Olympics are going on right now, Simone Biles, that girl doesn't just go to the gym on Saturdays and Sundays. That girl is at the gym every single day for probably 10 hours a day. If you are a concert pianist, you don't just practice the piano on Saturday or Sunday. If you're a professional singer, you don't just, kind of sing a couple times a week. You are at the gym, or you're at the piano, or you're singing every single day, practicing whatever it is that you do. And for some reason, artists, and painters think that maybe you could just paint a couple times a week and become a professional. And unless you're a savant, or somebody that's just out of this world, that's not going to happen for the majority of us. 99% of us have to work hard. And I can tell you for a fact that I have a very strong work ethic, but my work ethic and my determination far out what's the word? Edits. Okay.
Yeah.
My work ethic, my dedication, and my love for my art form far out measures my talent. And most of the people that I run around with, we're all talented, but we have that dedication to the art form, that if we're not painting, we're thinking about painting. We are research painting. We're looking at how the light is affecting that tree or that flower or that mountain. It's nonstop for us. It's almost, it's an OCD-ness when it comes to being an artist. So that, be prepared to have your life being taken over by painting.
Yeah.
And that could be a blessing or it could be a curse. It just depends on how you manage it, I guess.
I would just say, it's kind of a cliche, it's just to follow your heart, to paint. Whatever your vision is, whatever it is that you love about art, whatever it is, the art that you think is beautiful, that the reason why you became an artist, try to create that art. Try to stay true to that art. And if you're able to achieve that, then most likely others will love it too. Because what you love, others will love as well. Others will respond. But I think that's what's happened for me. I just had this vision in my head, and I was determined to make it a reality, and just, keep, whatever it was, all these years of hard knocks, to just that was my final goal, was to create a painting that I loved. And once I was able to do that, surprisingly, other people liked it too. So that's the key.
Illustration especially was a lot about style, having, a certain look about your work, to be on the cover of Time magazine or whatever it might be, something that the clients are asking you, for that style. And so early on in that career, you think that's, just find some style, but it's really learning, all the fundamentals and the principles about painting so that your style is going to become natural. So, don't worry about that. It's how I see, like, my poor vision helps me see in a certain way. It's the subject matter I choose. It's really, I have these stacks of paintings, here, and I'll send you individual ones where you can see them more clearly. But this was in Antarctic last year. So the subjects, each painting I do is really a journal of where I stopped to contemplate, what attracted me. So if we look back at all the paintings I've done in my life, it's really almost a journal of, in visual terms instead of words. And so if we all paint the same subject and you have just a way of seeing, a way of choosing what you pull out, what you edit, that becomes your style. So I would say, don't worry about the style, just believe in yourself, paint what attracts you, and don't try to copy someone else's. You could be influenced by other people, influenced by their color, the composition, their methods of doing it. But just try to find the subject and believe that, hey, I want to show Laura the beautiful pieces of color that I see today. I try not to make a painting. I tell my students, don't make a painting, just gather the color, the pieces of color you see, and somebody who's not there, I want you to tell me what you saw, what attracted you. And little by little, your own voice is going to come out there. And that's really what it is, that you have something to say that's unique. Everybody has something that they can tell somebody else.